Hey, it's Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Welcome back to the Modern Sportsman in Burnsville, Minnesota. So we just got done with the concealed carry class this evening, and one of the questions that we got asked tonight was, what do you recommend for a concealed carry handgun? And there's a lot of options out there. Anything from the classic Glock 19, which is still probably one of the most common concealed carries on the planet, to the P365 and their series, the XL and the Macro, coming from SIG, anything to a Smith & Wesson, the M&P Shield series, which is making some good waves, to even the Hellcat. And with all of these options out there, we kind of want to cover what our picks might be. And what we're really going to do though is we're going to compare several handguns. So let's look at first the P365 line from Sig Sauer. Well, the P365 line is quite the series that came out in 2018, and they started competing in the concealed carry market after the success of the P320 line. And it's a fantastic platform, but I'm not holding a 365 right here. This is actually the P365X Macro, which is a little bit different. Well, what SIG eventually did was, 18 months later, in 2019, they came out with the XL line, which is just a little bit better and a little bit bigger than the P365. When I say better, it's just some features that I more or less like. I like the larger grip because I typically, personally, don't like subcompacts, okay? In 2022, however, they took that P365 XL line and they made it just a little bit better by incorporating a built-in compensator on the top of that, along with their optic cutouts, which they're already doing, which are pretty fantastic cutouts, and raise the sights up a bit. And the P365 Macro is, I think, one of the top concealed carries that you could possibly get. Those built-in compensator ports on the top of that really do make a difference in this thing shooting flat. But what are we going to compare this against tonight? All right. Now, personally for myself, I do carry a Glock, and one of the things that I just like about Glock is the utilitarian brick. It works out of the box, and it's an old reliable, and that's probably what attracts me to it the most, okay? But we're going to go a little bit Guccier tonight. We're going to look at the Shadow Systems CR920 as a carry handgun to compete in this little comparison video that we're doing tonight. So the CR920 from Shadow Systems is a fantastic platform, and it's essentially a Glock. But it is a Guccier Glock. I do tend to like them. I don't care for ZevTech that much. I think they're pretty overpriced for what you're getting, but I think the sweet spot is the Shadow Systems line. And what's really nice about these is that the Shadow System incorporates a very forgiving optic mounting system where you can mount quite a lot of different types of optics to these without needing a riser plate or anything of the sort in there. And what you're getting with the Shadow Systems with the Elite, yes, you're getting the nice little upgrades aesthetically, but you're getting very good front and back serrations. We're getting those higher sights that give you the co-witness through the optic, and overall just a little bit nicer trigger than a Glock out of the box. Now, not much nicer. It's still a Gucci Glock, if you will. So tonight we are going to compare the CR920 and what a Gucci Glock can do against the P365 Macro. Now, I feel like we need a control for this test. So tonight we're going to compare it against these two beauties against this mag. No. The Hellcat. Now this little guy right here entered into the market competing against SIG, particularly on the tail end of the 365. And Springfield has definitely been guilty of lately is copying homework. Now, successfully, I might add at that. Mainly with the Echelon. They've done a fantastic job with that platform, and after reviewing it more, it's definitely known on this channel, we do like the Echelon. And whatever Springfield has done, making deals with those Croatian devils over there, they have an interesting platform that is quite popular in the United States. So we're going to compare that tonight against these other two beauties down here. So what are we getting out of this Croatian import? Well, we're getting a very small frame subcompact that I believe it with 13 to 15 rounds, depending on the mag size and if you have the pinky extension on it. But you're getting a lot of the same features that you're normally getting on other concealed carries. And that even though the Croatians are getting really crafty what they're doing with the Echelon, you're getting pretty standard features with this, with our optic cutout, slightly raised sights so we can possibly get a co-witness. Otherwise, the features are very, very similar to, say, the CR920 or even the regular P365. So this will be our first in the series that we're going to call King of Concealed Carry. So tonight will be our first bracket in the King of Concealed Carry. Who's going to come out on top? So this evening, we're going to look at the Springfield Hellcat. We're going to look at the SIG P365 Macro XL. And then we're also going to look at the CR920 from Shadow Systems. So first up on our bracket, we're going to look at the Macro. So out of the box, initially, what I'm digging on this is I expect some good things coming off the built-in compensator. I've heard good things about it, and I think it's going to run pretty well. The grip, I already like a lot more than the regular P365, and it's probably why I lean towards this just a little bit more versus that subcompact frame. I personally don't like my pinky hanging over when I'm doing reloads. It's a qualm. Yes, I could do better and not be a whiny little punk about it, but that's what I like. Things I'm liking already off the bat on the P365. It really does shoot pretty flat with those built-in compensator on the top of that. I'm really enjoying that. The trigger, I still stand by that, even though it's that flat XL trigger from SIG. I don't like their triggers. They feel like sponge cake in my hand. I mean, like we ghost that real quick. There's quite a bit of take up. It's a very soft break on the wall. The reset is really stiff, and that's probably what I like the least about this P365 macro. But the compensator, it does fire fairly flat, and it looks like we might actually need to zero this optic a little bit. We are using a rental this evening to kind of compare this with. But not a bad entry into this. Well, what did you think of it?
I like it a lot. I mean, this is my personal concealed carry, so I feel very at home.
There's a bias there.
There's a little bit of a bias. There's a bias. My gripping wasn't great. I was doing the headshots, but I was shooting rather fast. The thing I like about the SIG P365X macro is the compensator. Even though it is a much shorter barrel, it is very easy to control recoil. It doesn't kick back a lot. The downside is it is incredibly loud. So if you're using this for, you know, an indoor space, home defense, excuse me, it's gonna be loud. Your ears are gonna be ringing afterwards.
His recommendation for home defense then? Get a suppressor, put a camera. May all your problems be small and quiet. All right, so next we'll go to the subcompact size. We're gonna look at the CR920 from Shadow Systems. Again, this is more just reminiscent of a Glock. This would be something like a Glock 43X. So we're, of course, rocking a Holosun red dot on this, and we're gonna see how this stacks up now against something like the frame of that P365 XL macro. Tell you what I don't like on it off the bat, I hate my pinky hanging over. It's probably more of a training thing. It's a pet peeve. I hate freeloading subcompacts. My pinky always feels really goofy with them. So it fires pretty flat though. Pretty happy with it for a subcompact frame. I would go over the Shadow System over the 43X. It is just a little bit goochier, but it's pretty nice. It definitely doesn't fire as flat as the P365 macro. That's hands down the P365 macro. So far between the two, fires a little flatter, but this guy is a lot more concealable than the other one. They're both still pretty small frames, you're getting just a little bit shorter, but you're losing that grip hands down. And if you don't like your pinky hanging over like I do, I would at least get the pinky extension mags for it. Yeah, this was first grouping, which was awful. This was actual good. So this was the second mag that we did, which was better. Again, like I messed it up. There was completely
well,
shooter error.
Partially getting the feel for the firearm. Like when you first shoot, it kind of jumps around, and you get how.
I tend to do that every time I pick up a subcompact, where I need more time with subcompacts, and that's definitely just my own fault.
Yeah, this thing bounced up a lot more than I'm used to. I don't like the mags specifically, like how short that is, that pinky.
I hate it.
I hate it too, because it kept popping out of my grip.
So first of all, hate that my pinky folds over. Really not a fan of that. Don't like that.
You're not being fancy enough.
I can shoot it like that, but it feels wrong because I'm not British. And also the trigger pull, I'm pretty sure the Delaware was shorter.
All right, so let's look at our control. Well, I found in the rental counter this Hellcat. And let's go see what the Rage is all about and why it's actually doing so popular right now compared to some of the other stuff in the market. So Hellcat versus the P365 and the CR920 / Glocks.
Oh, that is stiff. That is so stiff. Okay.
We're leaving that in.
That's fine. Because it's so
It's
stiff.
really,
That's what she
really-
said. It's so stiff.
It's so stiff.
Well, the Hellcat, I don't like it. It's even more jumpy than that CR920. It's the CR920 is definitely superior to this, and compared to the 365, it doesn't even pale in comparison to that series. I think Springfield is copying their homework certainly, and the Echelon's fantastic. I love that thing. I mean, you're right. You've heard me rave about it. It's fantastic. This is terrible. I don't like my pinky hanging over once again. It jumps a hell of a lot, so there's quite a bit of a bite when you're firing it. And the sights are okay. The trigger pull is absolutely heavy, so let's kind of ghost that a little bit. So a little bit of take up, almost like 2.5 millimeters. There's a thick break. The reset's okay. It's probably the only redeeming portion of that. But other than that, the trigger is by far worse than that CR920. And I would even go as far as say, with the 365 having that mushy sponge cake feeling trigger, this somehow feels worse than that trigger. I would take the P365 trigger and the SIG triggers in general over the Hellcat. So not a fan personally. So we'll see what you think. Way better. Now, I don't like subcompacts. Not a fan. It's just me, but if subcompacts work for you, by all means do them. It's more of a personal preference. It's just I don't like my pinky hanging over when I'm reloading. It's just a pet peeve.
So in other words, be a man, carry a full size, a deagle down your pants.
Judging from what I've seen tonight, not super excited to shoot this one again. This for me is a miss. Would not be using this at all.
So when I hold it, I can feel it. It's like my pinky's spongy. I don't like that. All right, so quick summary. My groupings were really awful. It's because for some reason, even though I was aiming straight down and aiming center, mine was all down to left. I assume that's because my trigger finger placement was wrong, but the trigger is so heavy that it's almost impossible not to pull down to the left. My biggest qualm with the firearm is that this mag is not very secure. Like, obviously, when I stop it in there, it's not coming out, but it rocks back and forth. So when I'm holding it tight, it feels like it's a spring on my pinky.
Between these three, ultimately, I think I like the P365 the most. With that built-in compensator at the front end of that on the slide, and with the just slightly larger frame where you get a better grip and purchase on it, but still being a slimmer frame overall, seems to be a better conceal carry, but that's just for me. If you do like something like a subcompact between the Hellcat and the CR920 from Shadow Systems, I would definitely lean towards the CR920. It's definitely the superior package. You're getting the ergonomics of a Glock with the high beaver tail and just a better grip angle overall. But you're also getting just a slightly better trigger than a regular Glock out of the box, and you're getting a really good optics cutout package there where you can fit just a multitude of different optics. The Hellcat I was not impressed with at all. It had a very heavy trigger pull. The ergonomics were awkward, even with it being just a subcompact, which comes with it, especially during your reloads. But the recoil on it was even more drastic than the CR920s. All right, so for our first round bracket between the P365 Macro XL, the Shadow System CR920, and the Hellcat, bleh. I think passing on to the next phase as we go into part 2, I'm leaning towards the P365, the macro. What are you guys' thoughts on this thing? What do you think?
We were talking about this in the car on the way here. I am not a SIG guy. I do not like SIGs. I think they're too expensive. I think they're not really I don't think they perform as well as they could. I think Glock is better. Personally, I'm a Glock guy.
How many drops is this for you, Lieutenant?
38. Simulated.
This was all right. Maybe it's just because the competition was so poor, but to be totally honest, good trigger pull. Like you said earlier, it has your full frame and everything. Like it just felt so much better, and it's not like too stiff on everything. It sits in your hand good. I would honestly go this way.
I liked it a heck of a lot more too. It's just some of the features. Again, you get the slimmer frame. I like that slimmer frame. I'm surprised. I didn't think the compensator would do a whole lot. I honestly thought it would be kind of trash. So it was just an overblown feature.
Looks. Yeah.
But it's not. It actually it does. It's well made. Really, what I'm getting at is that it's well made. They did the compensator correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, it's what my concealed carry is, but I have a little bit of a bias. I'm not a huge SIG fanboy either. This one, SIG did right.
Absolutely.
The trigger pull as well is way better.
Way better, yeah.
Way better.
Well, let's talk about those trigger pulls. So between the three, I do think the SIG is probably the best. But the CR920, not bad. It's definitely better than a Glock trigger right out of the box. Of course, I mean, it's a Gucci Glock. I mean, did anybody else get that feeling too? It's a Glock. It's a little Gucci.
It's a mini Gucci Glock.
Yeah, you're getting a 43X basically, but you're getting the Shadow System, and they have some good programs, especially for their Patriots Protectors program. So if you were in the market for a CR920, you actually get a discount if you're military, if you're veteran, which is good for yourself, for me, or if you're law enforcement too. Yeah, check out that Patriot Protectors program. Any of you guys any thoughts on the CR920?
Too small.
Too small.
Honestly.
The trigger pull is really long.
I don't like my pinky hanging over. I hate it.
I don't like my pinky mountain.
It really, and that's just a training thing. You practice with it, you get better with it. I don't want to. I hate it.
Someone told me once that like a longer trigger pull helps you focus on your trigger pull, so it's more purposeful. When I'm in the heat of a moment and I need to put rounds out,
I'm going to insert the song "In the Heat of the Moment" now.
I don't want to have to struggle. I don't want to have to struggle with that trigger pull, I'm trying to be serious.
You lost it. All right, let's talk about the last one.
Really quick though.
What?
So about what is this again?
The CR920.
About the CR920, a small criticism. I don't like the stippling. I don't like it at all. It feels too light. Like it doesn't dig into my hand.
Everybody touch it.
Everybody touch it.
Didn't you say it felt like carpet?
It's not.
It could be like carpet.
I mean, it's as good as a Glock's, I think. I mean, it has quite good coverage on it, and it's better than some other ones. It's better than that Hellcat stippling.
Agreed. But the thing about the Glock, though, is you have more meat in your hands. With something this small, you need good stippling.
Would you say you like meat in your hands?
I love meat in my hands.
Okay, that's on the record. So, well, let's talk about that abomination. I don't know why they brought this from Croatia. I hate it.
Oh, it's awful. It is awful. It has every bad thing, every negative of what this is, and then it decided, how can we it up?
I don't even think that the CR920 is necessarily negative though either. It's a good subcompact.
No. I'm saying,
if you like subcompacts, this is a good purchase.
Agreed.
But again, yeah.
Anything that they did bad, Springfield did worse.
Or Croatia, or all of the above.
All of the above. They have the pinky hang off. They have awful stippling. The kickback is awful. The trigger pull is atrocious.
The trigger pull that one was by far the worst out of all three tonight.
Yeah, it was, hands down.
This one, not my favorite. Little floaty for me. Felt like I was pulling on nothing. That one, I would pull the trigger, and I thought I had pulled the trigger all the way back. And it just kept going to the point to where I had pulled the trigger and was like...
If you could describe it with one word, how would you describe it?
Felt like a misfire.
That's more than one word, but fair enough.
Misfire is one word.
Is there a hyphen in that? One word. How would you describe the Hellcat?
Disappointing.
Biden.
We can't.
I would just say stiff. It's stiff. The trigger, yeah, a long trigger pull. It's a stiff trigger pull, but also, I don't know if you noticed that during the reloads you use the slide release. The slide release is very stiff, and this is, and you know, and I'm going to give it a little bit of defense. That is a rental. I mean, look at it. It's even missing the optic plate on there. They're all, these are all rentals. They're all well used and loved. Oh, it's got some carbon buildup, but of them, even with them being well broken in,
This one still performs the best of it.
it performs really good. CR920, okay. The Hellcat performs terribly. It's just stiff. So
If you're gonna get a Hellcat, got very quiet in here.
I'm waiting for the drop on this.
If you're gonna have a Hellcat, I would either train with it more than the average handgun, because it just feels so wrong. But then you're gonna need to keep that thing really clean. Like, if that's the case, you're gonna need to keep that thing really clean. Really lube.
That sounds hot.
You heard it here,
Like,
folks.
He loves lube.
You heard it here first.
All right, so that's all we got for you this evening. Hey, thanks for sticking out with us tonight. And remember that of all these firearms, even though we're just kind of having some fun here and we're comparing them, and we are looking at, who's going to be the king of concealed carry. In the end, these guns aren't worth as much as the shooter behind that firearm. So go get training, go make yourself a better, more informed shooter, and just go get educated. And that's all you can really ask for. And it just makes you a better citizen overall. So this is Mike with Aegis Defense Solution, along with the rest of our guys and our crew. And thanks for sticking around this evening. And remember, be prepared, not scared. God bless and good night, guys.